Hello everyone and welcome to another expert interview. My name is Lucy Challenger and I'm the CEO of Polo Tweed, and I am joined today by the fabulous Peter Lowell. Peter, hello, how are you?
Lucy, I'm very good. Thank you very much this afternoon. Thank you very much for the nice intro there, yeah?
Yeah, no, you're very, very welcome. Now, Peter comes to us, I know Peter very well. He comes to us as an experienced domestic worker in his own right. But, you know, for people who perhaps don't know Peter, Peter, perhaps you could just share with us a little bit about your background, how you came to work in the world you do. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, first of all, how did it start? I started off as a chef, to be very honest. I started off as a chef in the hotel industry. I did probably 20 years in the hotel industry. I started in the kitchen, did about 8 years in the kitchen. I'm a specialist in the pastry department of a restaurant or of a kitchen, which normally goes down very well with everybody. So I know every different flavor you can blend with chocolate, which normally goes down as I said, very well with everybody. I then moved front of house. So I then used my catering college qualifications. I moved front of house into the restaurant, developed myself in restaurant management, and then got the odious title of assistant food and beverage manager. At which point I was looking at progressing further. My aspiration at that point was to become a hotel general manager. But I didn't have a qualification that said, I've got a qualification in management. I took a year out. I used the GVNQ or the GNVQ qualification system. So I had to put a massive portfolio of information together of my past experience, passed, got myself a management qualification, and came back into the hotel industry and tried to progress up to be a general manager. I reached the heavy heights of what they call a opening project GM. And basically I worked for one of the better known mid-range brands, and I opened 4 hotels for them. So I went in when it was literally just a building site and then put everything in. So even the wallpaper, beds, and I got involved with everything. I got involved with the maintenance teams, and I got to know about all the M&E, the electricals, the plumbing, satellite TVs, how everything works. Which sort of led me to a decision in life, what I was going to do. It was forced. Unfortunately, I got made redundant because the company had expanded too quickly. I went away on holiday. I went to a ski resort. And I finished up getting a job for the season in a ski resort, looking after a very, very, very nice, luxurious chalet. I then got asked by the owners to look after their 2 other chalets at the same point in the 3 valleys of France, so Courchevel, Mirabel, etc. And thought, I love this compared to hotels. I came back, found out what I could do about it. I learned that I could go to some of the academies, trained to be a butler. So I'm certified. I don't know if that means I'm a certified butler or I'm certified in madness. But I've got a certificate to say it. Yeah. And I've worked in private service ever since. So I've worked in various houses. It's a very bespoke industry. So that's me. I've done quite a lot. And I utilize all my skills.
Yes, no, well, it sounds like you have, and that experience of, you know, developing that hotel brand would have given you a good insight and good transferable skills into the world of butlering and private service, which of course is one of those jobs where you are expected to be able to do whatever your principal requests of you, and the more skills you have, the better suited you are into that industry. And I also think that a lot of people, you know, see the butler world, they see it as a luxury life that, you know, the principals are living. But do you think that domestic service, do you think being a butler is suited for every type of person? Can anyone be a butler?
I'd love to sort of leave that as a loose sort of thing, but I'd actually turn around and say no. It does take a specific person to work in private service, because when I was brought up as a youngster, remember used to going out because my brother's 4 years older than me. I used to go out, and there was the phrase, "You feel like the gooseberry when you're out with a brother and his girlfriend." And in some ways, as a butler, as a modern day butler, within a family, you're a gooseberry. Yes, you do become part of it, but you can be the gooseberry because you get to know and see and deal with everything. And if you can't deal with those bits and pieces, this is not the industry for you. You have to have a certain amount of, I think the word subservience, yeah? Because you need to take orders, because you've got to look after these people for whatever their needs or whims may be. And if you can't really take to go and do something outlandish, then you're not really going to enjoy it. And if you're a person that says, well, I'm not going to clean the toilet, hey, some days you've got to go and clean the toilet. I've rolled my sleeves up many a time. You got to do it.
Yeah, no, you're really right. And I think it's interesting because we have a lot of people, as you know, coming to Polo and Tweed. They want to retrain, they want to learn new career opportunities. And we see a lot of military folk that have served in the military forces transitioning into life in domestic service because military are, you know, excellent at listening to instruction, taking direction. There is that immediate hierarchy in place where they're used to taking orders from their senior, you know, generals, etc. And then that transfers very well into private service because you don't have, like, as you said, you don't have that ego or that I don't want to clean the toilet today, do it yourself attitude, which, you know, is ultimately is not going to work for the principal or for your job. But you know, for people listening that perhaps don't know what life is actually like as a butler, could you share with us, you know, what does a butler actually do on a day-to-day basis? You know, apart from watching Downton Abbey, which maybe is the only reference some people tuning in might know, what do you get up to on a daily basis as a butler?
Very good question. And how can the best way to answer it? I think the best way of answering it is think of us as in our normal everyday lives. We have to get up and get out of bed. We then have to make that bed. We have to shower, and then we've probably got to clean the bathroom afterwards. We might even clean it before, depending on how specific we are. Cook breakfast, blah, blah, blah. How nice would it be to have someone to take some of that out? You get out of bed, you go to the clean bathroom. You come out of the clean bathroom and your bed has been miraculously made. You don't have to do it. How did that happen? The butler did it. Why is the bathroom so clean? The butler and the housekeeping team did it. Madame gets dressed and puts her makeup on, sir puts his suit on, quickly go back to clean their teeth. The shower and everything is now clean. How did that happen? I didn't do it. That's the people that's what we do. So you think of a lot of the things here is that I think in some ways there's the service element. And I think the service side of it is we're the people that serve the food. We're the people that clean and tidy up. And yes, there's a lot of cleaning, there's a lot of tidying up to do. And I think that's what your day involves. It's not all about that, especially when you get to be a house manager, butler, and there's not a lot of difference between the two. They've sort of come together in the modern era. A butler is a house manager, and a house manager is a butler, unless you're in a very large establishment where you do need to have that pyramid and the ranks below. But yeah, you get to do so much in so many bits and pieces, and it's dealing with all these bits, and it's taking, if you think about it, you've entered the toothpaste tube, and it's a real bind to go and find the new. Where is the new toothpaste? When you work in private service, you put the new toothpaste in place. You get rid of the old one, and that's the things that we do. And I think all of us would love it if some of these stressful things, and they're very small stressful things, but we take all of those out of someone's way, and we get paid to do it.
No, well, what a satisfying thing to do, to to help people make their lives easier, you know, and like going back to earlier on when you're talking about the right type of person and why the right type of attitude you have to be in this type of job. You know, ultimately you're making people's lives easier, you're making their day flow better. They might have had a bad day at work, but you know, they come home and everything's beautiful and in place, and it just allows them to relax and unwind and just have a nice mental headspace to be in, talking about being certified earlier. But you know, I think a lot of the times people, you know, see this picture of the butler that we talked about,
Yes.
Downton Abbey or Batman's butler, or you know, these TV butlers, and they see a suited older gentleman who's perhaps, you know, very formal, very, you know, British and all of this stuff. But I see in the modern households a real blend now of formal and informal and different
Yes.
types of butlers. So could you explain to us, you know, firstly, what is the difference between formal and informal service, and why does that affect the atmosphere that you create in the household?
Well, very good question. I think one of the interesting things here is that I've worked for quite a few principals and I've been their first butler, and they've asked me very, very similar question. And it's a case of, Peter, what's the difference between formal and informal? Well, formal is accordance to rules or ceremony. And if you think of it, our royal family really do in some ways present the very formal side of things. It's very formal the way the Queen wears her crown in a state ceremony. There's rules and regulations of who's allowed to approach what order, when, how, etc. That's formal. So it's very structured, very rigid. I believe some people have used the word stiff or prim, like prim and proper, stiff upper lip. You have to have that sort of approach. Informal. Well, at the moment, I'm probably sat here as a formal modern day butler, suited and booted. Whereas if I was more of a casual butler, I may be here in a polo neck shirt, yeah, with a pullover or a fleece or something, and a pair of chinos or something like that. So that's more casual. And the casual thing of it is, you know, we talked about formal with Her Majesty is that people are introduced to her. You're not introduced, you know, it's that rigid. You are introduced to her. She is the most senior.
Yeah.
And it's Her Majesty. Whereas here it would be a case where if it's a casual basis, it would be a case of, hi, or good afternoon, Lucy, how are you? Yeah, it wouldn't be a case where I move into the formal side of it, of using your surname. So, good afternoon, Mrs. Challenger. I've become formal. Yeah. And I think that's the difference. And there's a certain amount of etiquette in it, and there's a certain amount of rules and rigidity.
Yeah. And so how does that in turn then affect the atmosphere of the property or home? I guess you think of the Queen's home, Buckingham Palace, yes, and then you think of, you know, perhaps just someone's home. You know, would that be a fair comparison to make? How does it affect the atmosphere?
Well, I think it's quite interesting because a lot of modern day homes and have these bits and pieces where I've actually had the conversation, sir, we're having a dinner party this evening. How formal would you like it? Oh, Peter, I would like you at the door. I would like you to introduce Peter. Just let them come in. And it could be a different party. And you can find that any household will have both. You know, it's a case where I've worked for principals who are CEOs of very big international companies, and they've had a formal dinner. And it is a case of black tie. All the gentlemen are in black dinner suits, black ties, etc. And then a week later, he's had exactly the same people round for a casual dinner. The other one was a business affair. It had to be done in a proper way. And that affects the household. And you can find that in the everyday way of life. It could be a case where, Peter, when it's just the family in the house, just call me by my first name. when there's somebody else in the house, be it my wife's sister, yeah, it's Mr., Mrs., etc.
Yeah.
Now it's complicated for the butler and but complicated for the staff because you've got to remember what's happening and when to do all of it. But that's part of the challenge, and it's part of the fun of the job, to be very honest.
Yeah, and you're right that you have to blend between the two now. Like you said earlier about the butler almost becoming the house manager in smaller house staffed households. You know, you have to be able to do the formal silver service for a dinner party, but equally, if your principal or boss just wants to watch TV and have their dinner on their lap on a tray, you have to be able to provide that service as well. So, you know, you've got to be able to elevate service to that formality, but then also have the informal, depending on if they just want to, you know, kick off their feet, because at the end of the day, most people want to kick off their shoes off their feet, put their feet up and just relax, no matter who they are in the world. And maybe, who knows, maybe even the Queen does it. We just don't ever see it.
I think there's little bits that we've gained about that. And I believe, as we know, you know, in private, they have a wicked sense of humor, you know, and I think that's the side of there is we don't get to see that because we only see the formal side of Her Majesty.
Yeah.
It's her staff get to see the informal side of her, and she uses their first names and talks to them. But when she's out and they're on the back of the carriage or anything, she just sits there and does what she's meant to do, and they do what they're meant to do. And
yeah. No, absolutely.
As you said, that's the blend.
That's the blend. And you've perfectly described this. So, I mean, it's very clear to everyone tuning in that you have this deep understanding, knowledge about the work that you've done through your career and reached very high standards yourself. Yes. And obviously that's led you into the training world because you have this knowledge. And I know you've done chauffeur training in the past and you've done individual training. Now, of course, you work with us as a Polo and Tweed trainer. But why do you want to share all of this? Because you obviously know it and can do it very well. But what sort of drew you to teaching other people in the first place?
Inspiration. It's inspiration in me because other people inspire me, because sometimes some people do challenge your knowledge, which is great. And also passing on the knowledge is inspiring other people, because other people look at it and walk into a room and they see the cut glass sparkling, the chandelier is absolutely gleaming, and they look and go, how do you do that? And you come on, I'll show you, and I'll show you the tricks of the trade. And when you've passed that knowledge on, and you can see that someone's grasped it, it's like silver service. How do you hold that spoon and fork? How does the butler pick up that one last string bean on the plate and put it on my plate? He's got a spoon, and how does he do it? Yeah, and it's passing that knowledge on. And we've been to banquets and we see people carrying 10 plates in one hand. How do they stack them? How do they balance them? Yeah. There's a technique, and once you know the technique, it's great. I love that bit when someone walks around, hey, look at me, 10 plates, and they love it, and that gives me so much.
Yeah, no, and then it's lovely to see that development, isn't it, in a student from maybe not having the confidence to do something, and then suddenly they're able to do it and they feel good about doing it. And then when they're faced in challenging situations like a banquet in real life, they know what to do, they know how to respond. You know, it becomes a natural, organic place for them to be in, and not a stress inducing thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why I developed the training in the first place was, you know, yes, we recruit, yes, we put people in positions and get them great jobs, but to empower someone with knowledge is long lasting, and the way you educate yourself and the way you give yourself tools, be it in, you know, housekeeping, silver service, etiquette, like you've mentioned earlier, has been a really rewarding thing for me and my company to do, because you really give back to people and their sense of ownership over things.
Yeah. Well, yes, and I think they feel great that they've learned something, and you then give them the opportunity to perfect it. And we mentioned earlier on, people within the services do come into the industry and work extremely well in it because they've got that bit where they practice. The crack shot sniper is only that good because he has practiced so many times. For some of the people out there, David Beckham was only so good at free kicks because he spent so much time practicing them. And that's what we get to do. And that's the whole, I think one of the beauties of training is to give someone the basic knowledge, to look at them, observe them, and help them with the skill set, and then give them that empowerment to do it, and then watch them develop that skill and become even more confident. I love it sometimes when I go into a nice cocktail bar and that guy starts making you that cocktail, and where's everything gone? He's practiced that. That's not just him picking them up and throwing them. That's practice.
Absolutely, lots of practice. And I think, Peter, that we in the last few months sort of expedited the e-learning process because
Yes.
Obviously we're faced with a world pandemic. We all went into lockdown around the world, and suddenly our training we couldn't access. We couldn't go to people's homes. We couldn't give them the training that they needed. And it was amazing how many people were coming to us and saying, help, we now have our staff can't work for us, or suddenly I have to clean a silk shirt, what do I do? And all these skills that principals, the owners of these properties and houses were needing, but equally the candidates and the staff were all sat at home thinking, oh gosh, we need things to do. So you were thankfully just before the lockdown involved in all the filming that we were doing, and for those tuning in, if you want to see Peter in all his glory, you can not like that, Peter. You can access our e-learning platform, and Peter takes you through the Butler training, through house management, along with our other trainers, and you can also meet Peter at our group training and our private training bookings, etc. And lots of clients specifically come to us because they need people like Peter to support them in their households, in the hotels, in a very specific specialized sense, to sort of govern and develop their staff. But it was so much fun working with you, Peter, doing all the videos. I hopefully you have some good memories from that.
Yes, there's a few. Yeah.
Not gonna comment. Oh gosh, but no, it's been excellent. And I think the big thing about training, like you said, the passion for it is at the heart of everything you do, and that really shines through very clearly with all your knowledge, your love of your subject, and you are a working butler. It's not that this is theoretical. You do this on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. But I also, adding the bits and pieces that you mentioned there about, I think the other beauty of e-learning is we arranged before the lockdown. We had training sessions and people would attend. We've now got e-learning where people can actually watch, observe videos and be set tasks and learn theory and techniques, but they can do it in their own time. And, I would have to take time off work to come and attend a training course if that's what I wanted, or I have to give staff time off. The beauty of e-learning is when they get home at midnight and they can't sleep, they can turn it on and watch it, and they can do 5 minutes, half an hour, and pick it up. It's the same for principals. And I think the other thing here would be is that it's also a great resource. How do I lay a table for 15 courses? Well, as a matter of fact, Polo and Tweed have got a training video on that. And here we are at 11 o'clock at night. We can watch it and we can be ready for tomorrow. And even the principal can watch it on his iPad in bed and then come down the next day and say, the teaspoon's 2 inches out of place, because they've learnt it as well. And beforehand, they'd never know. They'd probably look at the table and go, Peter, you need to tell me what to use, when and where. But now they can sit in bed. Instead of reading the Times, they can watch a video on it and what's going to happen in the next few days.
Yeah. And it's about empowering people, no matter who they are,
yes,
to have that knowledge, to have that understanding, and do what they want with it. So yeah, I mean, Peter, I could obviously talk to you all day about this because, you know, we know each other. I love the subject matter, and your stories fill me with great delight. Before we finish, is there
Yeah.
any, you know, specific funny or unusual moment that you've ever had in your career that you could share with us?
Well, I think you could ask that question to most modern day Butler house managers. And we would probably turn around and say there's nothing outlandishly funny that we could stand up on stage and make people laugh, or something that happened to us at that moment that we found very serious, but looking back on it is very funny. Are there other bits and pieces? Are there outlandish things that we've been asked to do? God, I don't know where to start. But I'll give you one little incident that happened. I was working for a family. Their son had found a young lady who'd captured his heart. She had a love of rings and she had a love of teddy bears. And it was a case of, how am I going to propose to her? And which ring do I buy her? I found 3 that I really like. And I actually made a very stupid comment at the point in time: why don't you just put the 3 of them in a teddy bear? And he went, perfect idea. So I actually found a very, very nice teddy bear. A very big, well-known store in the middle of London supplied it for me.
The green
and
logo.
we actually, yes, yeah, if we get any sponsorship from that. I actually got somebody who I know, who is exceptionally good seamstress. She took the eyes and the nose out, and instead of putting them inside the teddy bear, we put the rings as the eyes and the nose. And he actually presented this teddy bear to her at a specific time and a specific place. And she just opened it and looked at it, and she said, "Oh my God. Oh my, how did you come up with that?" And he actually told her that he thought it was, I suggested it as a stupid idea, and he loved it. And I unfortunately was quite embarrassed, because the next time she came to the house, she was wearing one of the rings, and it was a dinner party. They arrived late. She walked straight in, and it was actually quite a formal dinner as well. Mm. She walked in and she saw me and she ran over to me and she went, "Peter, Peter, Peter," and she gave me a great big kiss on the cheek with her fresh lipstick. And there I'm stood there for the rest of the evening serving champagne with this great big lipstick kiss with a tray of champagne in my hand. And people just looking at me going, and I'm thinking, I don't think this is very formal anymore.
No, certainly not. The formality's gone, but you brought 2 people together in love, which is such a lovely moment for your career. What a lovely story and memory.
Well, I think it's just one of those things. You just come up with some bits and pieces, but yeah, there's lots of stuff, and as you've probably heard from other people, it's not funny at the time, but when you look back on it, it's some things you do and happen are hilarious.
Yeah, no, I quite agree. But well, Peter, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, everyone who's tuned in, if you want to reach Peter, of course, you can reach out to Polo and Tweed. We can bring Peter for training, for butlering, you know, whatever you need him to help with, just reach out to us. But once again, Peter, thank you so much for being with me and sharing all this lovely knowledge with me. I've really appreciated it.
Lucy, thank you very much for the opportunity, and it's so nice to have a conversation with you.
Thank you.
Cheers.